Hi, welcome to video 4 of 10 of the free type 2 diabetes course for comfort eaters. In this video we're going to talk about self-motivation. So this is the difference between what you crave, what you love eating, and what your body needs to eat. So the first thing I want to say to you is that it's really important that you understand that you're not broken. The fact you haven't got willpower 24/7 and you see other people who are thin and eat other kinds of food and they're staying thin, that has nothing to do with you, your situation, and this kind of idea that you're broken. The thing I think we all need to understand more about is that modern food is actually really addictive. Now this picture, it looks horrible, but it's probably the way that lots of the pastries and cakes are made. This stuff is so artificial, it is untrue. I mean, it's made from raw ingredients, but it has been completely mashed up. And the thing is that because our bodies are designed to like higher calorie food, because obviously if we have more high calorie food we survive longer, we're addicted to it. It isn't good for us. And I'd actually argue that it's almost inevitable that most people overeat. My yardstick is when you look at the photos from 3 decades ago, most people are thinner. Even the people that were really thin or used to stay thin, they are now putting on weight, and it's almost inevitable that our willpower isn't strong enough 24/7. So that really points to the fact that motivation is just half the struggle. It's not the full problem. And one of the reasons I say that to you is that you've tried diets before and they failed, and if we only think there's two options, as in the carry on as we were and go on a miserable diet, then what's going to happen is in our brain we install what I call a limiting belief. And this limiting belief is something that is inside your head that you believe really strongly, and maybe you've had evidence to prove that, but if we don't undo some of these limiting beliefs, if we don't prove to our brain that we can actually lose some weight without having to go to the extremes of diets, that is going to be a blocker. That's going to stop us making progress. The way to think about it is more about a perspective change. So it's not so much that you're wrong and that you've got stuff in there that isn't right. It's more about just getting a nuance on some of the detail of it. And the way I like to think of them as limiting beliefs, they're a bit like glitches. So they're things inside your head that are almost like a kind of a malfunction, a bit of a crossed wires. So, a really common one that, you hear increasingly said is that diets don't work. So as a statement, I think it's a pretty fair statement overall if you look at the long term, but actually what we're really saying is that diets are not a good long-term solution. When we've been on a diet for those weeks or months that we've managed to stay on it, it's worked. Being in a calorie deficit has actually managed to make us lose weight. What they don't manage to do is to normally teach us how to do it on our own. Normally we have to stick to the diet, we have to follow their strict regime. It doesn't teach us things that will enable us to keep our current lifestyle and lose weight. So it's about that nuance. Diets work, but just not full time. Another one is that, and this is part of your skepticism, when you start a diet, you know already that you're going to fail them. So in the back of your mind, even if you're completely pumped and ready to start the diet, you've got this nagging thought, and it's that effectively it's just not going to work long term. And that's one of the reasons why we try and go for the fastest weight loss technique, because we think we're not going to be able to stomach this for very long. Let's just lose the weight and then we're done. The skepticism in your mind is proved right, and that again doubles down on this kind of idea that it makes us feel like failures. It's not something we say to ourselves day in, day out, but the very fact that we fail makes us think that we are failures, and that is such a toxic thing to have in the back of your mind. That kind of smug, I told you I was right, you were going to fail. It just belittles you and stops you reaching for your true potential. That wish of, I wish I had more willpower. This ability to resist temptation, and this fact that the diet is telling you to resist what you love to do is such a toxic idea. We don't need more willpower. What we need to do is change our perspective a little bit, and that's really around finding a way to really harness the motivation we do have. And then you have this kind of, I think this is a bit of an excuse we use, that we don't want to diet because we want to say to ourselves, I don't want to change who I am. And actually I would agree with that statement. I don't think you should change who you are. Your personality, probably a kind, like sensitive person, maybe you think of others first. That's not something that we want to get rid of. The reason you think of others first is because you enjoy other people's company, you want people to be happy, and in that situation you take on their worries. That's some of the reasons why I comfort eat, taking on other people's worries. So this thought of I don't want to change who I am and become a dieting robot, I think that is a very valid concern, and I actually think you should maintain that, but you should just think about the solution you're going to use and try and fit it to your lifestyle. So it's not a reason not to diet, it's a reason to pick the right reason to diet. So let's turn all this round. Instead of saying why I haven't got enough willpower, why I haven't got enough motivation, what I want you to ask yourself is this: what is your superpower? So what is the one thing that you're really good at, you love doing? And the answer is quite simple: eating. Food is the one thing that really motivates me. If I get to eat food when I've done something good, it makes me feel brilliant. So your superpower is probably food. If you can rearrange your lifestyle so that when you have been good, when you've done the right things, you get some food, that is then completely the opposite to a traditional diet. A traditional diet congratulates you when you abstain from food, when you don't eat, when you're in misery. Whereas if you can select a system that actually plays into that strength, then it's going to really, really help to motivate you. And once you get back on that, it's going to turn a negative, miserable cycle of a diet into a positive cycle where you're actually motivated to do the right thing. So to sum up, that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's the fact that we're eating this highly addictive food. And I think that in 10, 20 years, the real effects of type 2 diabetes are going to take hold of so many people that it will be, failure is inevitable almost. We need to change our own limiting beliefs, not our mindset. We don't need to suddenly become dieting robots. And in doing that, we need to focus on a system that really works with our superpower. So that was video 4. The next video, T2D_05, that is what should I do now. So this is the practical part of what are we actually going to learn, what are we going to change and do. Look forward to seeing you then.